to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She's a live speaker, business strategist, creator of Divine Alignment Framework, no other than Miss Taryn Gordon.
All right. How you doing?
I'm
So happy to
fabulous.
be here. Yes, thank
Yes.
you. Thank you, Zay, for plugging in.
Fabulous, fabulous, Miss Tareen. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
So, like you said, I am a business consultant, and I also coined the term life speaker because I am a public speaker. But I coined the term life speaker because it aligns with the broader message of helping people to align their inner world with their business and the life they intend to live.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Tareen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And today let's talk about why visionaries need to stop shrinking, the power of self worth and self determination in brand leadership. So tell us, let's start with the title of your topic. What does shrinking look like for a visionary reader, a visionary leader in a practical sense? Is it playing small, people pleasing, or something else?
It's actually playing small, anytime you shrink, anytime you dismiss your talents, anytime that you go against your soul's alignment, you're at a disadvantage. We are called to co-create in this life. We're called to impact. We're called to dream big and have big ideals and live in a full expression of ourselves. And when you're doing that, you're misaligned with who you are as a person.
He argued that the leader's lack of self-worth become a ceiling for the brand's growth. How does the energy of self-doubt actually trickle down and infect the entire organization's or brand?
Yes. Anytime you allow self-doubt to come in, you allow a war in your mind to come in, and ultimately you're betraying your talent. That's where self-determination comes in. It's the decision to activate your willpower. It's the decision to activate the inner rise that's in you to go out and be in your full capacity. Self-doubt is working against you. Self-doubt is undermining, you know, your bigger self. Self-doubt is undermining the blueprint that's part of your life so that you can live out your full purpose.
Hmm. Many visionaries are technically brilliant but struggle with the visibility that comes with leadership. Why is the transition from creator in the back to the face of the brand is so fraught with the self-worth issues?
Can you give me that question again?
Many visionaries are technically brilliant but struggle with visibility that comes with leadership. Why is
Yeah.
the transition from creator in the back to the face of the brand so fraught with self worth issues?
Yes, that when you're talking about visibility, and someone being fraught with, doubt in a sense, this plays on inner confidence. Part of leadership is about, having that confidence, having that self-assurance. And there are a lot of people that play visionary because they aren't in alignment with their true calling, And so when you take on the mantra of being a leader, you take on the mantra of, like you said, being the face of a company in a sense, and a person is struggling with that, they're ultimately struggling in their identity, because once you know who you are, confidence reveals itself. Once you know who you are, the blueprint of your life reveals itself, and your self-worth is built, and you do have the confidence and the power of your self-worth overrides and it outpace, that sense of insecurity that will make you not feel confident, you as a leader, to be the brand face of your company.
On self worth and strategic asset, how do you help leader distinguish between the imposter syndrome that everyone feels and genuine gap on their skills or preparation?
Yes, this is a good question. It's a universal struggle, the imposter syndrome, because again, it plays on identity. And, I talk a lot about being in alignment, first with who you are, because alignment, it puts you in terms of uh, the front row seat of who you truly are. And when you are what I consider in divine alignment, you'll be placed in the front row seat of the assignment for your life. And so, this imposter syndrome that a lot of people face, and, it can sneak up on you, but when you are in alignment with who you are, when you are in divine alignment with your soul's journey, then you don't have to pretend. A lot of people, I talk about a framework that I created, the three-tiered societal system, where you have visionaries, managers, and then you have consumers. And visionaries, they're called to lead, they're called to create ideals. Managers, they're called to expand on those ideals. And consumers, they're there to engage the world with the ideals that are created. And when you are, let's say, a manager stepping into a visionary role, you may feel that imposter syndrome because your role is better fitted as a manager and vice versa. Your role as a visionary is not supposed to shrink yourself or dismiss your talents down to a manager. If you are a visionary, you're here to create world ideals.
Mr. Rin, what are the tangible bottom line costs to a business when it is a visionary leader is consistently shrinking?
It will implode in a sense, because again, you're misaligned. When you are a visionary and you're shrinking, ultimately the system that you're in will collapse because you are supposed to be the lead. We're called to be the head and not the tail. And it's just that simple.
As simple as that. So, Mr. Rin, as a life speaker, business strategies, what are your short term and long term goals?
As a business strategist and a life speaker, my short-term goals are to continue to make an impact in the world that's in front of me. And my long-term goals, are to leave a legacy that will continue to teach about alignment, expansion, amplification, and to teach others how to have a legacy, leave generational wealth, leave generational principles. you know, um, I want to be able to, in a long-term capacity, fulfill my goals, and part of that is leaving products, that are wisdom-based, and so people can take those and expand on those. It's almost like the Socratic method. You have Socrates, who was the teacher, and then you had Plato, who expand on the critical thinking and the teachings of Socrates. So part of my long-term goals is to be able to leave teachings so that other people can expand on them.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Rin, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Well, if someone decided to take on the journey, wanting to be a life speaker or a business consultant, I would definitely say that it involves being in tune with yourself. It involves, understanding your talent, understanding your unique abilities, you know, and walking in the role of who you are, and being true to yourself. And, if you're called to teach, if you're called to impact, don't shrink yourself. Leadership is not about proving yourself, it's about standing in the role of it. So that's the advice that I would give for someone wanting to take the same path as me.
Interesting indeed, Miss Taryn, and thank you for that advice. Can you
Yes.
please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yes, the book that actually influenced my journey, or one of the books, is How Do Rich People Think? And it's a book written by Steve Sebald, and it actually touches not just on money, but money, mentality, and identity. And it influenced me because um, I already knew, my identity. I knew how I was, what I was called to do on this planet. But it shaped me because it gave language to missing strategies that I had. It gave language to frameworks for how I approach business. Yes.
Well, thank you for that recommended book, Miss Taryn. And how does strengthening a leader's self worth allow them to make bolder, more authentic decisions in their branding and marketing?
So, one of the lessons in the book is world-class leaders see themselves as assets, and if you see yourself as an asset, then you'll be able to approach deals as an asset. You'll be able to negotiate, as an asset. You'll see yourself as the golden goose. You'll walk in a room self-assured. You'll walk in a room in confidence, and that's how you will approach your business as an asset. And then also, you'll spend a lot of time getting better. You'll spend a lot of time in education. You'll spend a lot of time in developing your skill set and broadening your thinking. And then you can go in a room even at a higher capacity. So it's all about getting better and seeing yourself as the asset.
Interesting, Miss Taryn. When a leader decides to stop shrinking, it can disrupt established dynamics. What is the first and often most difficult conversation they usually have to have?
I guess with their inner self, part of that is knowing also who is speaking to you. And so, as a leader, we have board of advisors. As a leader, we have counsel around us. And those people that are in your circle, they must be able to speak your language. They must be able to be on the same frequency as you. And, sometimes you have people that are working against you in their language, in their actions, in their behaviors. And so, you want to make sure that not only are you having the right dialogue with yourself and making the right choices, but the people around you.
In a world that often rewards conformity, what is a leader's journey towards self worth and self determination actually a radical act of service?
Wow, I think that, any time a leader chooses to be their authentic self, that's already radicalism because you're not choosing to fit in a box. If you are a multi-talent, then it's your goal to use all of your talents. If you, um, are in one industry and you can work in another industry, it's up to you to be able to balance both. For me, I'm a musician, but I'm also a life speaker. I'm a musician, but I'm also a creative writer. And so that's radical in a society that's telling you to be a housewife or just be a wife. And so anytime you own your agency, you own your autonomy, that's already radicalism in its purest form.
Well, Miss Karen, how does a leader's healed sense of self worth change the way they handle failure and criticism, which are inevitable in business?
Yeah, definitely. Again, this touches on, a universal struggle of perspective. World-class thinkers, they view, fear or they view failure, or the fear of failure as an asset. One of the things that I realize is that, a failure is an ignition starter. It allows you to jumpstart, your position in life, in a new way, and so um, the failures that you deal with, those failures don't have to be wasted. Those struggles don't have to be wasted. They are positioning you um, to make the win that you're looking for. And I think that's how leaders should approach failures. One of the things I'll just say this also is that I was taught that I never lose. Even in my losses, there are still gains. If positive minded thinking make people think, how can I view the silver lining in all of this? So if you approach your failures or your seemingly failures in that type of way, you'll see them as an asset.
Looking at the broader business landscape, Mr. Reen, do you see a new generation of leaders who are approaching self worth and brand leadership differently?
That's tricky, because this new generation of leaders, they have different instruments and they also have different tools to work with. And so their ideals of brand leadership may be a little bit different than, how it was for me when I was coming up. So in that regard, there's always a way of change that happens. So yes, that leadership is different today than it will be in the future.
If a leader takes this journey, what becomes possible for their brand that simply was not before they did the internal work?
Well, what I will say is that, before you do any kind of internal work, alignment does not necessarily mean success. And I'll give you this as an example. You know, um, there are evil people that win in this world. There are corrupt people that win in this world. There are people that cheat the system and they seemingly win. You have a thief that goes to commit a heist and he's able to be successful in stealing hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, did that thief do the inner work? Nope. But they still were successful in stealing money. But here's the thing, when you are in divine alignment, then um, that will allow you to be in harmony with your soul's purpose. It's one thing to be what you can do, but it's another thing to do what you're called to do. And so, we're not in the world to bring dysfunction and chaos. We're in the world to bring harmony, not harm. And so, when you are aligned with your purpose and you're doing the inner work, then the systems and the goals that you have, they won't collapse underneath. They'll produce the fruit and the impact that we're designed to do and designed to create.
Mr. Rin, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season. Abstract poetry in second season.
That's
I'm a
awesome.
book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in third season. I'm a food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101, love letters, movie
Wow.
101 review, and music 101 in fourth
Wow.
season. And my baby podcast, Law 101, Mental Health 101, and Bible Verses 101, Science 101, and Sex 101 in
Wow.
its second season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Tareen, ultimately, if we could leave our audience with one mantra or core belief to employ about their self worth, what is it? What would it be?
What I would say in my final thoughts for any person that is listening to this podcast is if you're standing at the edge of any kind of change, any kind of pivot, or if you are a self-starter, do not wait for permission. Don't wait to have a savior save you. You know, you take permission. You take agency over your own thoughts. You take agency over your own life, and you make the stand that will strengthen your inner confidence, that will build your self worth, and that will reclaim your identity.
One more, Mr. Tarin. What is a simple daily practice or micro habit a visionary can start today to begin building a muscle of unshakable self worth?
Oh, that's an awesome question. I love that question. And what a person can do in terms of any kind of practical application is what we use as a clarion call in the culture of Taryn LaRae's Business Hub, and that is speak, build, and believe. You know, you speak to your inner dialogue, and then you begin to build on your soul's foundation. You begin to build on the blueprint of your life, and the harvest from that is belief. And what you can do in terms of the practical aspect of speak, build, believe, and that is, you know, you speaking to yourself. You know, write down three things that you want to speak life about yourself. You know, you write down three things that you want to see for yourself, and you know, you speak those things outwardly so that they can, you know, come inside of you, and then you can begin to do the work that's required. You know, so you speak, you build, and believe.
You speak, and for sure you believe. And how can leaders, team, and support system help create an environment where leaders feel safe to stop shrinking and start standing taller?
How can leaders build a safe environment for other leaders? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, how? Yes, how can a leader team support system help create an environment where the leaders feel safe to stop shrinking?
Yes. So if you are a leader and you have a team around you, I think that for one, something that we take for granted is kindness, or something as simple as kindness. You know, kindness will allow people to be open and express themselves. You know, rewarding a team member with an accomplishment. You know, and even in a small external validation will make a person feel safe. You know, people when they operate in fear, or you operate in an environment where there's angry people, that will allow other people to shrink. But if you come to the table, and the table of your teammates, in a right environment and with the right spirit, then you'll reap that in turn. You know, so how you show up is how people will show up as well.
Interesting, Mr. Reen. Interesting indeed. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the
Yes, thank you,
world.
thank you for having me.
Thank you. And can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
So if anybody wants to do deeper work, they can always visit the YouTube channel. That's at Parents Business Hub. And if you want to engage with our suite of resources and products, definitely visit the website. That's www.parentsbusinesshub.com.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Taryn because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Miss Taryn Gordon, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Danny, for having me. I really enjoyed myself.
Likewise. So, more to come, people. See you
All right.
soon.
I wish you the best, Daniel.
Likewise.
All right.